Okay, welcome to the August 26th Budget Committee meeting. We're starting at 7 p.m. and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Ellen Adlington, our recording secretary, is actually recording for the Charter Commission tonight. We do once a month, we meet on the same night, and they have the town attorney there, so they really want to make sure they capture that. So Amy has offered to take notes, and then Ellen will look at the tape and write up the minutes from that.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. And you could write down one thing, Larry Pickering is excused, and I think everybody else is here tonight. So we're good to go. Okay, the first item is the approval of the May 20, 2013 meeting minutes, which was a long time ago, but that was our last meeting. Any changes? Russ?
Two typo type things and one question.
Okay.
Somebody's recording
You gotta speak up, Russ.
I was going to say, may I politely suggest that we all use our outside voices? Because I don't know where the microphone is, but
Right there.
I guess it's those two.
yeah, we need to boom.
Okay, you had two typos and a question?
Yeah. Page 2, second paragraph, fourth line down, it says, who made comments at the April 29th meeting regardless of LGC. I think it should say opinion after it, because that's what it was, just not LGC.
Did you find out whether I wasn't quite sure what it is?
Can
Right in there somewhere?
Can you
Okay.
outline that again?
Regardless
Yeah,
of LGC opinion wanted.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Page
fourth line
2.
down in the second paragraph.
1, 2, 3.
Begins with
Oh,
who?
regards of LGC opinions,
Yeah, LGC opinion,
opinion wanted to
or
speak.
opinions, whichever.
I don't have that one.
Yeah, I think it's just a
Is that
word.
it?
You
The,
need to add the word opinion.
Fourth, literally the fourth line. Regards of LGC opinion. Okay,
the second one is on page 4, which does have a page number. First paragraph, fourth line down, it says, and if they quality, I think it's supposed to say qualify.
if they okay, yeah, right here. If
Page
they
4.
qualify instead of quality.
Page 4.
Yep, fourth line. Third, fourth word. Qualify instead of quality.
And you want my last one?
Yep.
It's not a typo. There's a note on the last page that says prior,
That's okay, I needed
it
this.
says
I have a different
approval.
printout than he does, so.
Sorry, oh, wait, we'll
It
catch
says
it.
approval of April 29th minutes, where we brought up the point that Rosie Quack's letter and the LGC opinion should be attached to the minutes as a matter of record, but we couldn't attach them to the April meeting because they happened after the April meeting. So we said that in this minutes, but though it's mentioned in the minutes, it's not mentioned as being part of the minutes or attached to it. So if you just read
Where exactly does that say? Sorry, I didn't capture that either.
it says, Mr. Simon said the minutes do not take into account the issues that the committees had to deal with concerning the LGC letter and Ms. Quack's letter. Those letters and issues occurred after April 29th meeting and are part of the minutes of this May 20th meeting. Does that make it part of the minutes? Or
I
should
think
we
if I
just put
reference it as part of, it's in the, the budget, there's a file for the budget committee, and that is part of the packet that Ellen would, or Kathy would collate as part of the meeting, so it is part of the
That
minutes.
refers to it correctly.
Yeah, okay. Any other changes? Okay, motion to accept the minutes as amended?
I'll make a motion to accept the May 20th minutes as amended.
Second?
Second.
Dave, second, and, I'm sorry. So Drew made the motion and Dave seconded. All in favor? Please by saying aye.
Abstain.
Judy
No,
abstain. Any opposed? Okay. All in favor, one abstention, Judy. Okay. All right, now we're ready for Administrator Fournier. Thank you.
For having me. I just want to go over quickly a few things for the end of fiscal year 2013, which ended on June 30th. I am happy to say that we've increased the general fund balance by $1,017,434 to $2,380,062, which is very healthy. It's above our thresholds that the council set by ordinance last year of between 5 and 10%. I believe it's about 12%. So our fund balance is very, very healthy. Key reasons: motor vehicle permit revenues exceeded budget by $90,000, just people buying newer vehicles. Building permits were up $15,000 because of mainly because of the mill, and ambulance receipts was exceeded budget by $66,000. But the big items were we sold finally the old DPW garage for $234,000. The parking fund was closed by town meeting vote last year, and that rolled with the fund balance. Any money's in there. There was $187,000 in there. And we did have some vacancies in buildings and ground, police and fire departments, which was about $80,000, a little less in savings because it didn't have to pay the salaries and the benefits. And we also began contracting some other services, such as the finance director is still on contract, and the assessor, we used to be a town employee, now it's a contracting firm. So we save money there as well. So we're doing pretty well there. I did hand out a list, some slides that the finance director went over with the council about a week ago. And it just gives some other items that there's some things to look at, such as what we have for outstanding bonds left and other type of activities that we're going through. Just skip most of it. Some of the things that we're going to start doing is we're going to have a new chart of accounts. So the budget you're going to have for fiscal year 15, which will be coming up soon, we'll have a different set of numbers to come in line more with what state accounting practices are. And other than that, again, these numbers are unaudited. We're doing the audit right now. They're actually in this week. So there could be some changes in it, but we're not expecting a lot. We're beginning the budget process now. Departments are starting to go write their budgets. By charter, I have to have a budget before the council by October 15th. And the council needs to have a budget before you by November 15th. And then the budget committee has to have a public hearing in early January for the town side. School side just follows the SB2 timeline, so it's actually about 2 weeks later for the public hearing. So we'll have 2 public hearings when it comes to that.
Just, you have downtown TIF improvements.
Yep.
It has $750,000 outstanding. I thought we closed that last year.
We still have, that's still some of the, we didn't close it, we still have capital reserve fund that pays off that debt.
Okay.
So
we don't have a balance because the reserve fund
It's paying
equals the
it, right.
$750,000.
You mentioned the ambulance budget. There was an excess in there. I thought that was sort of set up like an enterprise.
there is a certain percentage that goes to the enterprise fund, but the rest goes back to general fund balance.
So like 45%?
40, I think it's 45,000, right?
45,000.
Is there a public hearing on the town side of the budget before it comes to us?
Yeah, no, council just approves the budget.
Council approves it
and
and then it comes to us,
committee.
then
Budget
it's up for
committee
public.
holds it.
Thank you.
The superintendent and I are working on dates that we're gonna recommend for deliberative session. It looks like February 8th, if we wanna continue with the 1 day.
Which is about the same as last
Yeah,
year, right?
yeah,
Weren't we around there?
yeah, and March 11th would be the actual town meeting day for the vote. This year's budget, everything's going fine. Nothing out of the ordinary 1 month in, which is good. Not gonna play.
Good.
So,
All right.
It's going well. I have to run the charter commission, so if there's any questions.
We'll come downstairs.
Yeah, exactly.
You wanted to stay for the, do you have time for stay?
No,
Yeah.
I've discussed
Okay.
it with him.
Yeah.
And
No problem.
Okay.
And he
I
has
apologize
to
for
go
not being able
downstairs,
to.
so.
I still want to talk.
Yeah, no, we can.
Just
Fine.
quickly, what did you feel, year end, are you pleased with where we
Oh, very
landed?
pleased.
Was it-
You know,
was
I've
it
heard in the past that we weren't.
enough to get the job done? I guess?
Right, we weren't sending a lot of money back to fund balance. This wasn't just because of savings in the budget, but also increased revenues. I've said many times when it comes to revenues, I try to be conservative. So we do have this at the end, and we're not under budget. So this is, I'm very happy where we are.
And I think your administration should be commended for that.
Thank you. It's,
Absolutely.
you know, it's work with the council and
Great.
all the department heads, so we're getting there.
Mhm.
The LGC refund,
Yes.
is that tied up in court now forever?
It's a good question. They just came out with a scheduling for the cases. LGC has to turn the money back by the 1st of September. However, the court case is until mid-September. So the money's gonna go back before the court is heard. When we get the money, I'm not gonna spend it, I'm gonna earmark it, just in case we have to send it back or send it somewhere else. But it's up in the air. The courts just came out Friday evening with the date for the hearing.
How much are we getting?
We're estimating about 85,000
Additional.
additional.
But the people bringing suit are ones who aren't getting much or any money.
Right, the ones who are getting sued, part of the deal was that you have to be a member of the program as of, I'm trying to remember the date now, I can't remember. But they have to be a member of the program. Those towns were not as of the deadline. I think it was the day of the hearing decision. They were in it before. So they're saying, well, I was in it before we contributed, I want my money back too. But the hearing officer said, no, we have to give us,
It was more than 2 years. or
right, it's gotta be a
something.
certain, date certain. So that's where they are, and they came up with the date of the hearing.
Thank you.
What's that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Dana. I'm going to preface this next item, if you can, with the handout I gave, just so folks
Okay.
know. Dana had called and expressed an issue about in the line item budgets for the town budget, there are two categories. One is called social service grants, and one is called grants. And so I just handed out, I think this was in last year's budget, but it doesn't, it's irrelevant what these amounts are, because that's not really the point of the conversation. The point of the conversation was was Dana's concern that or question whether there are criteria for awarding these grants, either the social service grants or the grants themselves. And I've actually had that question myself in the past, looking at these, you know, how does the town decide which should be granted grants, or which groups should or shouldn't get grants. So anyway, you wanted to
thank
follow
you.
up on that?
Yes, thank you. I did have a conversation. I'm actually one of those firm believers that if you got a question, go to the source rather than sneaking or trying to get answers behind the scenes. So I approached Steve and asked him if there were any criteria set up for either social grants or grants. He looked and he said, you know what, Dana, there isn't. So I then proceeded to ask questions about a particular event happening in town where approximately $8,000 was awarded through fairly. Everything was done above board. There was no issue here of anybody hiding or anything, any money. It's basically what are the criteria for getting social grants. And I alerted Ellen to let her know that the budget committee itself is approving these social grants totaling somewhere around 67,000, I guess, on one side and 44,000 on the other side. And she was concerned as well as I was that there are no criteria, so which meant anybody could possibly go to the council with a letter and ask for monies. And I'm using just an example of getting a sewing machine going downtown at an event and sewing handkerchiefs and selling them and asking the town to help them out to make the money. And I thought that was an issue. So talking with Steve and with Matt Angel, it is clear to me that this is nothing more than an oversight and that they are going to take actions to correct it, because we as a body, we do not have the authority to tell the council what to do. We can point out irregularities to the council, and we can do another thing, which I contacted Paul Sanders today of LGC, who absolutely agreed with me that even though the budget committee does not have the authority to dictate to other government agencies or governing bodies, we can make a strong statement as a budget committee to them, because ultimately it is the budget committee who controls the purse strings that go directly to the taxpayers to vote on. So we could withhold monies. That's not what we want to do. And I don't think that's anything anybody else wants to do. However, it is something that needs to be looked at. And one other thing that they have to do, the governing body has to look at retaining receipts from non-profit organizations. And there are a couple in this whole budget. I recently asked for some information pertaining to an event that happened last year, not this year. And I was told that I would receive a spreadsheet on the expenditures from the town side of the $8,000. And I asked the question, why would I want a spreadsheet? Those are numbers that people plug in. I'm looking for receipts, copies of receipts that were spent from taxpayers' dollars. And to my surprise, there aren't any. So if you need money, and it's been granted by the council through the process, the budget committee and the voters, there's no accountability for what your expenditures are. And I really do believe Steve and Matt, that is part of the problem, that is not part of the criteria that you have to show them. One would think you would have to do that, it's just common sense, it's taxpayers' dollars. So we as a body can ask for those receipts, but we can't dictate them to the council. However, under 91-A, the right to know law, that's another avenue that we as citizens, not just budget committee, but as citizens can ask for that information and to verify. But they wouldn't come to the budget committee, they would have to go to the governing body with those issues. So that was made very clear.
Right, okay, so the issue is, we want to recommend that there should be criteria for grants and social
Right.
grants.
And I recommend, as what Paul did, that we recommend that we put it in writing and send it to the council so there's a document to support if it comes back to the budget committee where you approved it and there were no criteria. So I said, that's fine. I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, we're recommending that they establish criteria for grants and social grants. Is that
Yeah.
clear
So
to everyone?
this whole discussion is not intended to blow it up and make it a big issue, because Steve is definitely working on it, Matt's working on it, and I know the council is aware of it through Larry Pickering's comments the other night at the council level. So I want to just put it to bed.
It's just better transparency from beginning to end
Exactly.
versus.
Exactly.
Would you like to make it as a motion or just?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that the chairman, with the consent of the budget committee, send a letter to the governing body about the irregularities and perhaps make some suggestions on improving the transparency. And one of them would be, you must qualify to be a 501.
Well, wait a second, that's actually quite a bit different than what we just said we were going
It
to
is
recommend.
different, but-
We're not directing the criteria. I would like, in my,
No, we're not directing.
Sorry, you're
We're
making a
just
motion, I
making
won't-
a suggestion. Okay, I'll take
okay,
that
why-
out.
no, that's all right. Make your motion, then we'll have a second, then we can have discussion. Sorry, I
Okay.
interrupted your motion.
All right,
Do we have a
the
second? for this?
motion, yeah, would just be that we send a letter to the governing body about the irregularities.
And to set criteria for an amendment?
Yeah, friendly amendment, okay. Friendly.
Second?
I'll second.
Look, second, I'm writing.
Okay, discussion?
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely, because I have a
To the
question.
committee. Obviously, the town is in charge of these grants, correct? Is there checks and balance of who's spending what money when?
No,
Are they coming to the town administrator or whoever and saying, I'll pick one?
No, they have to put a letter in during the budgeting process, like, let's just say, this entity wants $8,000, they send a letter to the council puts it into their budgeting process, they either accept it or reject it. If it's accepted, it goes into the budget.
Well, I guess my question is, are these monies spent wholly or are they spent partly? Meaning, does someone, if they get a $1,500 grant and they say, I want $700 today?
No, they get all of
do
it.
they get all of it all at once?
My understanding is, on the previous years being on the council, they get all of it at once. They have to do two things, send a letter requesting the money. Once it's approved, they gotta send another letter requesting the monies to be released. But there's no accountability.
But your point was that some of these organizations have to provide receipts showing they spent the grant.
Oh, absolutely. Those,
Not all of them.
I say not all of them because we know, let's just take for an example, Lamprey Healthcare, they get $10,000, they're in our backyard. We know they're a 501. So we know what their money's going towards. It's going back into the community.
Okay.
And the other one is going into the community also, but it's going through with no accountability.
So I guess, are you asking for both 501 compliant organizations and non-501 to follow the same rules?
That would be up to the council, but that would be a suggestion.
So
And you're talking 501c3.
All of those. Anything that's a 501 would be broken down by 501c, 4, 7, whatever the category they fit into with the IRS. That's irrelevant to me. It's just a criteria maybe for social grants would be you have to be a 501. Talking with Paul Sanders, he said with the rest of it, he said, what about your parades and things like that?
okay, just Dana, hold on a second, because when you raised this with me and when we talked about it so far tonight, before you made the motion, it was about recommending to the council that there be criteria. And I would fully support that there should be criteria for these grants. But that there's been irregularities and that we should dictate or recommend specific criteria, I'm not comfortable putting that in a letter to
No,
the
I
council.
said initially, and then Amy said, well, what about a friendly amendment? And that struck a chord, said, friendly, okay. There wouldn't be anything like dictate. Here's a suggestion from us. We have the right to make a suggestion.
So reread the motion. I'm not clear exactly on
And
what
the
we are.
motion was that we send a letter to the council that we've noticed irregularities. No, there were no criteria that we could see and proven by Steve for social grants.
Okay. You want grants and social grants?
Well, isn't
There's two different things.
There's two sets of grants.
Well, I'm not so concerned about the social grants as I am about the other ones here.
Well, another,
But I don't see it in there.
I don't know if this is friendly or just
well, we're still in
different
discussion,
words.
so that's okay.
But I think people are talking about, not us, but the council having a formalized
No, I know what
process
this is, but I don't know
for
what
issuing
this is.
grants and approving who gets them. Okay. That doesn't seem to exist. I just sort of like to start there rather
Exactly.
than dictate.
Start where?
Of saying if they don't have a process for approving, distributing the money and doing whatever follow-up that they need, that they should formalize a process for all grants.
Right.
All
I
I
don't
would agree
care
with that.
whether it's 501c3, social, or
Right.
whatever.
And leave it there.
Would you be willing to withdraw your motion and go with Russ's motion of recommending a process for,
But Dana, have my words if it makes sense, but I think.
No,
it just
isn't that
has
what
to-
I just said?
Formalizing the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said, but we added the friendly amendment, so we'll pull the friendly amendment away and just go with the verbiage that he and I pretty much said.
all right, we need to state what that is, because I don't think we all understand completely what the motion says.
What is so difficult to understand? There were no criteria set up. Let's send a letter to the council requesting that they look at this, because we as a body voting on the budget are gonna have a hard time voting, at least I will.
Okay, don't add the extra, just read what the motion should say. So
The
we are
motion
recommending.
should say that all grants coming from taxes, I don't care, need to have, our recommendation is they should, not need, should have a criteria set up.
Okay, yeah. Okay, can we have okay, is that your original motion?
I think it was.
Okay, and you're gonna re-second that?
Let's go with
Luke?
it. I'll re-second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Abstentions? Thank you. Thank you for raising it, because I do think it was a good.
Can I go home now?
So I will send that letter to the town council, copy Steve.
Okay.
Ask for a response too from him.
Okay. All right, we are ready for the school folks. If you'd like to come up.
Evening.
Hi, Steve.
Christine Bloom, business administrator from the school. I did provide handouts. I also hope that you received the email, and I apologize for the late email. But it's been a rather very busy summer. I will start with the expenditure report. So that is the thicker report. I'm still working on Incode trying to update the titles. So if I say expenditure report, it might say expenditure report on it versus a revenue report. But for now, they all say budget report at the top.
And what should this one say you're talking about?
They're all gonna say budget report, okay? But it's the thicker of them, it's rough,
27 pages.
27 pages, okay?
Starting with Fund 10, General Fund
Yep.
on top left.
Exactly. So, and in there, it's double-sided, but there is the detailed report. There's also the summary report for those that did ask last time, so
Ran it nicely.
it's
Look
both
at
in
that,
there.
open it up. It's
Um,
flipping.
I'll just briefly go over the FY13 year. If you have specific questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If you've kept up with some of the school board meetings, I projected that our expenditure side of things for fund balance was roughly gonna be 70,000. And I'm very pleased to say that we are, and this is unaudited, we have a fund balance of $89,000 roughly on the expenditure side of things.
Could you answer that?
Where does that show up on this 27?
If you look on page, if you look towards the back, if you look on the summary, go to the summary because it'll be easier.
Page number on the summary?
It'll be the
Is
last
that-
one.
That's a different summary, the one-page one?
That's the grant.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, it's very confusing. If you look at the back where you'll see the 149,000,
Mm-hmm, that's page 26 or 27?
it's my 27.
Yeah.
Mine's not double-sided, so.
Okay,
Okay, so of the 149,000, we have to back out for the warrant articles because we didn't fully expend the warrant article of 160,000. So you need to remove the 35,000. And then we also had a warrant article for purchase of land, which was $24,000. So when you take those out, that gives you your net of what we didn't expend, which is $89,337 and change.
okay.
Okay.
Remind us
It's-
again what happens to that?
I'm sorry?
Remind us again what happens to that?
I'll explain all
Okay.
of it in just a second.
Okay.
So that's on the expenditure side, and the reason why you have to subtract that, just so you understand, is that when you do your budget, it's gross basis budgeting, so it's what the total appropriation that we have set as a limit that we could have expended, but we didn't expend as much as we needed for the purchase of land and architectural engineering. So that money is still remaining in our trust funds, okay? So that's why you have to remove it from the expenditure side, netting us the 89,000.
Any of these papers you just gave us have what the trust fund balances are?
No, they do not. I did not provide that yet.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why, yep, and I'll explain why in a few minutes. So this is on the expenditure side, so does anybody have any questions about the expenditures? Yes.
There was some issues with egress at school with the, is that going into the next thing, expenditures,
Well, that's
fund
coming,
balances?
no, that's all coming out of the trust fund. We have the dual purpose trust fund, so that's all coming out of that, that has nothing to do with the
It was
operating budget.
unanticipated that we were gonna find some stuff that had to be removed, hazmat.
Everything, I mean, it exceeded our budget. Do you know what the last number is, Jim? For the egress project, six?
Yeah, it hasn't had a full accounting yet, but all the work is pretty much done. The number I have in my head right now is it's around 640,000, 642,000. but I think there's a chance when we do a full accounting, that number may drop down a little bit lower. It's in that vicinity.
But that's not in the general.
That's not in the general.
That's not in the general fund, that is coming out of the trust funds, monies that were already raised.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you.
Put aside. That's a great question. I will note, because we did reference to it, at the beginning, no, it wasn't the beginning of the year. What do you think? Roughly, I think I want to say November-ish, we were projecting that we had some unanticipated special ed students moving into the district. I believe there was 4 that we were expecting. 2 of them did not come in. One ended up being homeschooled and one ended up moving to Florida. So that helped with some of the expenses. So you can see that if you look at the special ed, it was only about $87,000 in the red there. So we lucked out with that because it's very fluid. They come and go, so that was a big plus.
Just a question, and sorry we haven't had much of a chance to review it. Just wondering what the difference is between the original total budget column, the first column, and the current total budget column? Because on the first page looks like they're the same number in the categories, but when we turn to the last page, it looks like the original budget was $15,000,004, and the current total budget is $17 million.
That's correct.
And so somewhere we added about $1,000,007.
Correct. What that is if you were to go to the last 2 pages, you'd see the biggest differences on page 26. It might be off a little bit. But if you looked under the 4,000 account, which is the purchase of land, see in that first column where it says the original total budget is 0, and then you get the 1.3 million.
Page 25, right at the very bottom
All
of
the
the
way to the
page.
bottom.
Okay, yeah.
See how like that's 0, and then we put the current budget in there. And then see how this is 0 right here, the purchase of land, and we put in the 1.3. The original budget is what we actually start, because when we did this is a brand new software for us, so in January, we had to load the budget. So the warrant articles and the trust funds were not entered into that process initially. So that's why you'll see 0 under the original, and under the current is when we updated it. So like the purchase of land, the fire and life safety compliance warrant article, and then the architectural is already there. So that's the difference between the 2 columns. And then the last column is the fiscal activity. That's actually what we spent. Okay.
So we're talking $1,006,000 out of the $1,007,000 was for land and fire safety compliance, which were warrant articles.
Correct. And there could have been a couple others that, when we did the conversion, that might not have come over. Contracted services was another one under 2210. Okay.
But
Great.
is that standard though, that we'll see this, just trying to get a feel for the 2 columns? Should they normally, original budget and current total budget, be the same, or they're always gonna be different based on the warrant articles or what fiscally happens at the town approval meeting?
Correct. Yeah, they will tend to be different because, like, for example, I loaded the 10 fund already, but, for example, the warrant articles didn't get put in, they get put in after the fact because we have to open the budget up for the end of the school year so that teachers can do purchase orders for their supplies before they leave. And then we kind of do a cleaning up where we add in all the warrant articles and trust funds. And if we have any monies for, like, say, I have a dual purpose fund that I need to have to accept money, that's not part of the original budget, so then I would add it into the current budget. So they're not likely to balance out.
Just sort of thinking, if we approved the warrant articles at the annual town meeting and we approved the budget at the annual meeting, why is the budget in there and not the warrant articles? But I'd just sort of like to have a meeting. If the budget wasn't approved, we would still have a budget in the original budget, because that's what we submitted. It's just the warrant articles that are not included.
It's pretty much just me entering it. If I have, like, when I do the budget, like this is the first year where we enter in the budget, I can tell you right now, I did the 10 fund. That was my main concern, is get the 10 fund in, which is the original general fund. Get that in, make sure it balances out, make sure the accounting is there first. Then you proceed to the next, next would be the food service funds, okay? So then we move to food service, and then we move to grants, and then we move to trust funds. So it's just how I did it. It has nothing to do with, could I do it all at once? Possibly. It's just how we did it with the new system.
I was gonna say, is part of this because we went to the new system halfway through the year and that's some of this, or is that?
Some of it.
Okay.
Some of it was we had to do a little house cleaning, but a lot of it, like I said, when I'm putting the budget in this first new time on my own, I want to make sure that 10 balances out before I complicate it with trust funds and other funds and functions.
Any other questions on this document?
I just wish we wouldn't change systems and reports every year, because it's kind of hard to
Yeah,
compare
I've
last
been on
year
this
to this year.
5
Ideally,
years.
this'll be
and
it.
never been the
It
same.
changes format.
They do seem to be going in the right direction in terms of getting better and more
Yeah.
Well,
more
Well, it
clarity.
won't be
We're
changing the
getting more
reports, 'cause this is
reports.
what they are.
We can't compare them to anything because the format's changing.
Yeah,
So,
like as you said, 5 years I've been here, there's always been a new format, new software, new people, something.
All right, next
Sure.
one.
So the next one is I'll do the revenue report, which is a one-page report. It has a few lines, but they all begin with 10 again.
Fund 10, general fund, 1 page.
Yep. So you can see if you look down that our Medicaid and our CAT aid, catastrophic aid, was a little bit higher than what we projected.
Christine, your title on this, I'm sorry, was revenues?
This is the revenue report.
Thank you.
Yep.
But the actual title on the piece of paper still says budget report.
They all
Yes,
say
I just
budget
want to write it
report.
on
so
here.
right.
It's a
Sorry.
one page.
Medicaid.
It's okay. I can't
Okay,
change the titles yet. I'm working
The
on
one
it.
that has open space revenue
At the beginning,
That's-
is the revenue report.
correct.
Chris,
I'm a simple
Revenue.
man.
Yes.
We'll get it eventually.
Well, I have it exported out to you, so I can't change it when I export it to you.
This is the.
you can't type in the word revenue? Really?
It won't let me because it's in a PDF. What I can do is next time I'll print them and I'll write them all, the titles on there, and then I'll just make copies. It's
Yeah,
scanning
this is
thing.
No, we
Yeah,
got it.
that's too many.
Yeah, that,
Yeah.
we've got
We're
it.
good.
Just
We're good.
somewhere around there.
Chris, we're good. We're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, is everybody on?
yeah, we don't
Be
want to.
easier to buy a stamp, wouldn't it? Revenue?
It'd be easier if it would just print
Yeah.
for me. Okay, so the CAT aid and the Medicaid aid came in a little bit higher, 83,000 for the Medicaid and 13,000 for the CAT aid. Everything else came in very close within. The transfer of capital reserves, the reason why it's that negative 59,000, again, that's for the same thing. It's from the 24,000 from the land that we didn't have to expend, and it's the 35,000 from the architectural and engineering. So if you just back that out, washed it out, we received $107,000 in unanticipated revenues this year. Okay, so what happens is if we take the $107,000 from the revenue side and we take the $89,000 from the expenditure side, from unexpending the budget, put them together, it makes $197,000, which is our total fund balance, unaudited. And that would go to reduce taxes. But if you may recall, we had 3 warrant articles for a quarter for up to $50,000 for special ed, technology, and repairs of buildings and maintenance. So $150,000 of that $197,000 is going to go to those 3 trust funds first, leaving you approximately $47,000 to reduce the taxes.
No, it's just to hear it that way. I don't think I've ever heard the connection of, gee, any surplus we have, goes into these funds, et cetera, versus the taxpayers recognizing that they would get a credit on their tax rate for that, versus that the money was held there. But aren't you changing? I thought there was some new ruling that said the school is now allowed to retain balances.
If it was voted by the taxpayers, it was not, we did not have a warrant article for that. We
But
have 3
there's-
warrant articles that the taxpayers did approve that allowed up to
Right.
50,000, was it?
50,000 each
Technology, and we've been
Special
doing that
ed.
for years.
in repair and maintenance.
Right.
So
It was
100
25% of it, up to $50,000, wasn't it?
Correct. Yep.
So it should be a little less than 150 grand if 196
There's the-
was the surplus.
197 is
Right.
surplus, 150 will go into those 3.
Well,
This is the-
since 25% of 197 is less than 20, is less than 50, it should be like 48,000 going to each one, because I think the warrant article said 25% of any surplus not to exceed $50,000, something like that. I just don't
I
understand.
think it's the latter, okay.
Well, you couldn't, because you couldn't say 50,000 if the surplus was only 20. So it has to be a percentage with a cap. If we only had a $20,000 surplus, you could.
No, I see what you're saying, I'll double check the wording of the warrant articles, but my understanding was it was either 25% up to 50,000, so in this case, we could use 50,000 each. But I'll check the
I'm saying
wording.
25% of 197,000 comes out to be 48,500, so you couldn't give more than 48,500 to those three. You'd still end up having 25% of that total amount left for surplus.
I think that's right, I think it's 25%.
I'll look at the wording of it.
Yeah, but this is the first time, based on those warrant articles, past such money is going into these three, and then the money back.
Oh, no, that's
No,
what a
no,
regular.
no.
That's, you've had that previously.
No, but these three funds, we just passed those.
Those
These
three,
funds have been in
No.
existence for
Yes.
many years.
Right, but the
Exactly.
amount going into them was on the warrant articles last year, no?
no, we kept on adding to them. The
Okay,
warrant articles
okay,
are
yeah.
there, but we keep
Yeah,
on
no, I'll
adding
look at the
to
wording
them.
again,
Yeah.
just to make sure, but whatever the case may be, you have the three warrant articles, so those will be factored in first, and then whatever's remaining would go into.
Yeah,
reduced
And those monies have to be expended during that fiscal year.
No, they don't.
They don't.
No, they don't.
No.
Nope,
You're putting money into the trust funds
that's correct.
specifically
Capital reserve
related
/
to
trust
those.
funds.
See, they're not allowed to say CIP. There's a reserve. However, I do see capital reserves here now.
They're called both, some are called the trust fund, some are capital reserve, they're the same, they're one and the same.
As I understand it, the difference between the town and the school is the town, if they have a surplus, that goes into the general fund, as we talked about today, and then it's up to the town council to vote how that surplus is used, whether it goes for tax support or something else. The school, up to this point, does not have a general fund for surplus. They, by law, have to return any unspent monies back as a tax credit to next year's
Unless
budget.
there's a warrant article.
Unless there's a warrant article that directs any surplus that's generated to go to funds like they have. So instead of the 200,000 being a credit to this year's budget for taxes, if that's what the surplus was, 100, a little less than 150 will go into the trust funds, but not a general fund. And 50 will be credited into next year's budget for that. That's what I'm saying.
So just do check the 20,
Yeah, I'll check the wording of it.
25%, so you're gonna be just under 50K on each.
You did mention, Russ, that that there was action in Concord that school districts can retain a fund balance if we had locally passed. So there's legislation that supports that, but there are restrictions on that, and we did not have a warrant article to that effect. Just because of how that was structured, we felt like we were effectively doing the same thing with the mechanisms we had in place with our trust funds.
I'm assuming we'll see it if it's useful, and we won't see it if it isn't, because you have something, well, except when you have this, right? 75%, 25%.
Okay.
But we'd have to pass a warrant article to say general fund for the school was approved by the voters.
Right.
Lou had, you have a question?
With Carpenter's closing down, shutting the doors, what's happening now?
Could you be more specific?
With revenue, that I believe they were covering the cost of the tax.
We were the landlords, and is that the $1,000? Is that the dollar? What does Carpenter's pay?
Yeah, they both pay a rental.
I know
amount.
all ones.
Carpenter's is $1,000 annually. They pay taxes as long as they're operating their business. Or I shouldn't say that, as long as they're still leasing from us, technically they still are. Part of the arrangement, the original purchase and sale arrangement, was that after they closed the business, that he'd be able to sell any equipment or even some of the greenhouses, and I know he's working on that. He planned to dismantle some of the greenhouses and try and sell them. So that's still a work in progress. So I don't think he's complete on that site, but once he is, we're just going to leave that locked up. There's no plans to do anything.
Will you let the farmer's market continue?
He and I are having email conversations about that. We're trying to figure out a way to do that.
Good.
When does
Good.
it roll off the tax rolls though, Jim, when Carpenter leaves?
Once he's done, yes. And I don't consider him complete.
How long is his lease?
He had a 2-year lease that would take him through next June, or next July, whatever, it's June 11th, July 11th.
Can I ask a question? Why was it just $1,000 a year?
Because.
I mean, knowing where the community is financially,
Right.
I mean, I don't want to rob the guy.
No, I know.
The
Well,
rationale.
again, it's all part of creating a deal that both sides can live with. It was only towards the very end of negotiating a deal that we realized that anyone who leases from a school district, and I imagine a municipality, has to pay the taxes on that. And so, yes, he was paying us $1,000, but he was still paying his tax bills on, considerable amount of
The
property.
tax bill, he can pay that twice a year, paying just $1,000 a year for the property.
Let me give you the full the rest of the story here.
Right.
We, in the purchase and sale agreement, we set aside, in terms of the money that he got, but we set aside $40,000 from it went into escrow from which taxes would be paid. And if it exceeded the $40,000, then he paid the excess. Well, as it turns out, the taxes were less than that. So we will get some monies back out of that escrow account as well as the $1,000 a week. So it was all part of a package, trying to make it affordable.
And those monies will go back into what fund?
That's a good question. Out of the escrow account, I'm not sure
Correct.
exactly.
He owns all the structures, so any monies he gets from selling those structures, he benefits from those.
If they can be dismantled and moved,
So-
yes, that was part of the.
Good for him.
Yeah,
That's
no,
for
that's-
years that he should receive that money.
And that's, to us, that's less we have to demolish. That's all.
Absolutely.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
So in essence, because he's closed down, he still had a lease till June of 14. Is he being let out of the lease early, or in effect, no?
Yes, he's being let out early.
Okay.
And that escrow then forfeits, you've got 2 years worth of escrow on taxes.
Half a year maybe, I don't know, I'd say 2 years, but let's see. It depends on how well, it's pretty close to a year, because again, it was a year ago, it was July 12th when we passed papers. So it was a 2-year lease. So we won't quite get a full year of that escrow back, but we'll get pretty close to it, because I don't think his taxes,
No, what I'm saying is,
First
when we
year
did the
exceeded.
deal, we escrowed the taxes that he was supposed to pay for the next 2 years.
up to $40,000, which was a reasonable amount at that time.
Okay, which should have approximated about 2 years worth of
Right,
taxes.
it basically was, yes, basically was.
And for whatever reason, he had to pay any excess over 40 if the charges were higher,
Right.
and anything lower than the 40 reverts back to the school.
Yes. Yeah, where it goes, I'm not sure, but yes, it reverts back to us.
The town would lose the revenue as tax income once he goes off the rolls, but the school would benefit by having excess funds.
And owning the property.
Whatever comes out of the escrow, and then owns it. Right.
Okay, so we ready to go to the next?
If we could find that out, Jim, that would be great.
Okay, so the next one we're gonna go to is, again, it says budget report, but it begins with 22. Those are your grants. So if you just pull up 2 of them, the smaller of the 2 is the revenues, and the expenditures is the 5-page report. So if you just flip to the last page,
You doing expenditures first?
we can do expenditures first.
We've done 2 already, right? I can put those
Yep.
aside now,
That's right.
guess which are the remaining 4.
Yep,
So when you say expenditures, 22, 14, 30,
correct. Okay,
Tell me
5
where you're
pages.
looking.
The last page.
I have,
Last page is really,
oh, this page goes with it, okay.
that's the revenue page. You know,
That-
the single sheet's the revenue page.
A single sheet.
Single sheet is the revenue page.
Ah,
That's the
so
expenditure sheet.
these three are the 5 pages you're talking about.
Our 5 pages are double-sided, or 5 pages are single-sided.
Expenditure report.
Okay.
Grants. Oh, you have two, you took two of them.
Oh, okay.
That's why, this is your revenue.
Ah.
Okay.
Can you remind us what these are versus the other two?
The grants,
These are called grants.
these are grants, these are our federal grants.
So why don't you need a stamp?
Title I, Title II, IDEA, preschool,
These are
That's
grants we receive,
correct.
not grants we give. Does the school give grants?
No.
If we
Let's
did,
not go
we'd
there.
have policy and procedure.
No, we're on the receiving side. We receive grants and we also
Good one,
receive
Cliff.
local grants, okay, federal,
Glad
state,
you
and
cleared that
local.
up.
So on the expenditure side, if you just flip to the last page, pretty much what you're looking at here is the fiscal activity. We received $471,000, okay, roughly in grants. Okay, now some of these grants, they all expire at different times. There's carryover, there's a bunch of different things. So you can't just look at the bottom line and say we didn't expend that grant in full, probably because it hasn't expired. Okay,
To follow through with the logic on the bottom, we had an original budget of 518.
correct.
The current budget increased the grants we expected to 541.
Mm-hmm.
We only received 471.
Oh, Simon, where
I
are
got
you?
different
We're on
numbers.
the last page.
Yeah, but where is he?
He's on the
Oh,
revenue.
He's on
He's
another
on-
page.
There's a single page,
Grant.
no
That's the
back,
revenue.
That's the
I was on the
revenue.
that says
expenditures.
grant revenue, and
Right.
then
But
double
we're on the
sided,
expenditures.
2 to 4 pager is the
Russ,
expenses.
we're talking
Oh,
about
okay.
the expenditures.
Right.
So we
I
got
don't know, I
all
was
confused.
looking at the same 471.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, I was looking at the expenses.
Okay, so,
How are your glasses?
and I'll I'll speak to Russ's comment in the first one. Again, the original budget, okay, and the expenditure is 510. The current budget is 533. That's because we received carryover after the budget was entered. Things can change. Okay, so the current and the original are pretty much always not likely to match. Okay, because things change throughout the year. We receive funds, we get money from trust funds, grants, things change. The period activities, which is just what we receive for that month. Okay, that's all the period activity is. The fiscal activity is the 471. That's for the entire fiscal 13 year. Okay, so July to June 30th, that's what we received. And I mean, that's what we spent. Excuse me. So if you go to the single page on the revenue side, original budget, current budget, period activity, okay, fiscal activity. What you really want to look for is make sure that your fiscal activity on your revenue side equals out to your expenditure side, which it does, the 471,911.
Right,
Okay.
the original budgets don't, or the current budgets don't, but the actual money spent does.
Correct.
And-
Because when we actually get the money, okay, so how it works for the school side is we write grants, they get approved, okay? We sometimes will, depending if there's a payroll and there's salaries involved, we will sometimes actually we have to pay the employees. So by the time we have to pay the employees first, which will sometimes hit the operating budget if we don't have the grants set up. And then we have to seek reimbursement from the state, which once we get the money from the state, then it hits the revenue. Okay, so that's why they're not gonna match. Okay, because when we actually receive the money and we post it on the expenditure side, they're different times. Okay, but at the end of the year, we need to make sure that we've collected everything that we've expended.
We are paying employees to write grants?
No,
Oh, I
No.
thought the finance side.
no, we have salaries in our grants. Okay,
Right, and I
we don't have grant
understand,
writers. We have grant writers, but we don't pay for them
Separate.
to write grants. Okay.
I understand, I'm sure there are exceptions to the rule, but if we took in, let's say, $70,000 less than we expected in grants, that would mean that either we had to cut $70,000 worth of program in our budget or use $70,000 from elsewhere to cover it.
Yes.
Okay, so my question is, what did we do? Was this 70,000 of savings from somewhere else in the budget that covered The shortfall in grants?
Okay, that's not a shortfall in grants, that's what I'm saying. You cannot look at the variable difference because these grants all expire at different times. So one of the grants, for example, expires next year, so we haven't fully expended that grant. So therefore, it's gonna show in the variable difference over here, but that's not the actual, we're not short $70,000.
Okay.
Okay, because the way the grants, when you create the budget for grants, okay, you put in what you are allotted. So if we're gonna get $100,000 for a grant, we put $100,000 in.
Right, so let's say the 518 that you had in the original budget, just as a number, was what we budgeted last year. And that was in the numbers that were approved. So if we had that in the budget and we actually received $69,000 less than what we budgeted, either the school cut programs by $69,000 or save $69,000 in operating expenses somewhere else to offset that, because there was a revenue. I mean, the revenue was in the budget. I'm looking at you, Cliff.
Right, but what you have to understand is some of these grants are 2 years, multiple years. So that's why I'm saying you can't just look at the year end. Like, okay, so go for example, the first one, Title I, okay, we had $12,000 left. Okay, that grant is expired. Okay, that expired June 30th.
12,000.
Okay, and on page 1, on the expenditure side. Okay, that grant expired, for example, on June 30th, okay? We had $12,000 left. There's something called carryover, okay? That money's gonna get carried over into next fiscal year. So again, when you look at your original budget and your current budget, here's $12,000 that wasn't in my original budget for my grant for this coming year, okay? It's gonna come in as my current budget, all right? If you look through and you go to, well, they're all, we're not gonna be in the negative. If you look on Title II, Part A, that one expires 9/30 of this year, okay? We still have to spend $11,000. All right, are you with me so far?
Well, I'm just trying to understand, we approve a budget once a year, school board, town budget, et cetera.
Correct.
There's X amount of revenue, X amount of expenses, and the school budget is supposed to match. And so if we fall short of the revenue that the school takes in theory, somebody's making a decision like Jim to hold off on certain expenses to try to balance
Correct.
it because you don't have any reserves. So all I'm asking, and I recognize some of this may go over a couple of years, when you say original budget, I look at it and say, okay, that was in last year's number that we expected 518,000 in grants. We actually received in the fiscal year 471. So for whatever reason, we were just $70,000 short of the revenue we had expected, which I would, and since we had a surplus in the school, I would assume the school saved 70 grand plus that extra
Because it's a grant.
199.
You're missing is under grant.
These are grant funded,
These are
like,
grants.
so.
The grants can go out, like she's saying, they can take 115,000 and split it up for 2 years, but show half of it in one fiscal year and put the other half in the other fiscal year.
That's fine, I'm assuming that's what the original budget is. But a grant, if it's not spent and it's approved in the budget, the money, either you don't do that program, because you don't get the grant.
Yeah, but the
Let
grant
me
is
just
set
say
up for
this,
2
if
years.
it's a grant funded position and let's say I hire a reading teacher and all of a sudden they reduce the grant and so now I'm getting $50,000 less. That teacher is then laid off. Their contracts are, they specify to say grant approval, grant funded, okay?
Right, but not
So-
all the grants are that way.
No, all of them are that way.
All of them is
All
if
of
you
them are
don't get
very
the grant, you
specific.
cut program.
All of them are very specific when they're written. We have to specify how we're gonna spend it, who is actually being charged to that grant line. We have to have the documentation to back it up to be reimbursed for
And
that.
that's all I was asking.
That's why,
Either we cut the program or you find
Correct.
money elsewhere. You're saying all the grants are under the, if we don't get the money, we don't spend them.
correct, because some are for books. So if we have a shortage of grant funds, we don't buy the books. Same thing with the salaries.
Gotcha.
If it's grant funded, you're laid off because you're a grant funded position.
Would one of those
So-
examples be the career to teacher program? Was that a grant?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Drew had a comment?
So, does this get back to your original comment of what we really want to look at is the fiscal activity
Mhm.
on revenues and the fiscal activity on expenditures,
Yes.
and those numbers should be the
Correct.
same?
Yes, because if they're not, then that means you've either overexpended what you received or you've underexpended what you received.
Thank you,
So they need to net out to zero.
thank you.
I think,
Yeah.
kind of jumping back a little bit, I apologize, but it's related. You spoke earlier of $107 of unanticipated revenues. Can you speak to where those monies came from?
Where those monies came from? Yep, if you go back to the expenditure, if you go back to the revenue report, 83,000 of that came from Medicaid. I projected 165,000, we had 248, so that was the biggest chunk. And that had to do with some of the additional students that we received that had significant disabilities. And 13,000 came from CAD aid.
What is that?
CAD aid, yeah, it's catastrophic aid that we received from the prior year for reimbursement. There's a formula of which they have to exceed a certain dollar amount for us to be able to receive. So that was 13,000, the other one was 83,000, those are the two biggest. And then we received $2,600 additional from the earnings on investments. That's the CD that we have. But some of that CD offsets some of the bank fees that we pay on the expenditure side. And then some of the others, the vocational ed came in a little bit higher. We received $7,300 in charter school, which, as you can see, I was not anticipating anything from charter school. And then $187 from indirect grant costs.
Krishna, what is the state education tax?
The 2.8, that's what we get from the state. That's the local grant, sorry.
Lottery?
No.
It's our tax.
It's our tax.
That's part of our tax bill.
Okay. But I just want clarification, because I had a conversation with, what's our representative today downstairs, Kelly Ayotte, and asked, because I think you and I were talking about it. Yes.
The lottery, yeah.
Yeah, and you said, go downstairs, that's where he is. So I went down and asked, and he couldn't tell me.
Yeah, I don't know where the lottery.
Where is the lottery money and how does it come to the schools?
I don't know the
And I
answer
don't
to
see it
that.
in here at all.
I
Take it and scratch it.
I can ask, but I.
No, you know the ones you buy for $1, $2 ones. So, yeah.
I believe it goes into the education fund and then our,
Then it's figured.
I think it gets
cost on your tax bill,
Yeah.
when you get the school, to the state funds or whatever, it all goes into the general fund and then is apportioned by from
But would it
the
not go to
state.
the school? Because it's
Well,
set
it
up
goes to
for
the state
education.
first.
It
and
has
then
to go to
I
the
don't know how they
state
divvy it up
first.
from there. I don't know what the percentage.
But isn't the lottery run by the state?
Correct, but it goes to the Department of Education, and how they divvy it up, I'm not familiar
That's the
with.
question.
accommodate
It
So-
does go
what
to
each legal-
education. How do they divvy it
A
up?
percentage of it, but I don't know.
Yeah, but even then, if we are getting any money, it's gotta show in the revenue. And we're not showing it, because we don't know where it's.
Well,
We
it
do.
could
It
be,
might be
it could be
coming from-
commingled in there, and that I wouldn't know what percentage of it is, to be honest with you.
It is, I don't know what percentage
I don't know,
is,
but
but
I
that's
can- I'll
exactly how
ask.
it comes back.
I'll inquire about the
Basically.
lottery.
Somewhere in here already?
In that 2
Well, it would come in under the state education tax, it would be commingled in there.
All right, so it is in there.
Yes,
Most likely.
I don't know of
Okay.
that, what it makes
Okay,
up.
so it's in there, but we don't know what the cost amount, not the cost of the revenue.
It's actually the
amount.
adequacy, but it's not, the state is what you pay on the
Can
property.
you check into that without going through a whole lot of ring row and everything else?
Sure.
Because I got,
There's
Kelly.
also a formula on the state
Easier
lottery
to flip
site.
up.
yeah.
Yeah.
The state
There's
education
information if you go
is
to the
what
state
comes up your
But, I mean,
property
I'm not
tax.
so worried about the formula, and I wanna know what the revenue is. I wanna see a dollar figure, that's what I wanna
believe you
see.
So you wanna know what the
Yeah.
revenue?
Yeah. And you can just email that to us.
Did that answer your question, Glenn?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
It's hard to predict, is my takeaway.
It's very hard to predict because I can tell you, and I guess it's a great segue, we'll talk about the FY14 year. we're gonna be very much challenged, this next upcoming, or current year, I should say now. We have received 11, special ed students come to our door that were unanticipated. 5 of them have very, very significant disabilities. We have 6 new positions that are driven based on IEPs. And so at this point, because 4 of them just showed up Friday afternoon, we haven't received their records. So we don't know exactly what those costs look like. We haven't completed IEPs or anything like that. So, but we're definitely going to be in a challenging year for the special ed department for sure. We've also received roughly, you might recall the percentage, the sequester, which is a reduction to our federal grants of about 5%. So we kind of gotten hit from all directions for special ed. Jean Parsons apologizes. She was going to be here tonight, but she's ill, so she will plan on attending the next budget committee meeting to answer more specific questions about special ed. So I'm just trying to give an overall recap. So that's what we're looking at for FY14. We will be providing the board updates as we get more information. But
whatever form you give the board may be something that would be useful for us to see. So I assume we're getting the same reports. I'm looking at you, should I look that way? But I'm just looking to be able to say we don't want to create anything more unless we see something that requires some information to surface. But I would think you do risks and opportunities, which is really what you're talking about. Because you have a budget that's approved, and now you're saying the first thing I'm looking at the moment are 2 risks. Risk 1 is a higher amount of special education, which you have to fund out of this year's budget. You can't go back to the taxpayer, so it's going to have to come from somewhere.
Well, that's not
In the trust
special.
Right. And
we also
5,
have the special ed trust fund.
and we're after the budget was approved, we're now going to get 5% less federal money than
That's
we
correct.
expected.
The sequester.
Okay.
Yep, that's on
So
all
we have
federal
2
grants.
risks, whatever that dollar amount is against, and not a whole lot of opportunities in the school.
Correct.
Sound good indicator.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine the school board gets something from the financial controller that says, here's how we're doing, here's the risks and opportunities.
Does the district have a group of grant writers, or is it one person for
No,
the entire
we-
district, or?
We don't have a group and we don't have one person either. We have a couple. We have
a couple.
3. Pat, and Pat Valentine writes all the grants, and Tom Higginbotham writes a grant, and Jean Parsons writes some of the grants, with assistance from administrators as well.
Burdened with writing
Must be
budget.
good, just writing grants.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a team effort. I'll leave it at that.
Well, thank God she's got Sherry too.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we passed a warrant last year, I believe, that said you could go out and write grants and
Correct. We
Are
can
you-
receive unanticipated revenues and have the school board hold a public hearing to expend unanticipated
are
revenues.
you pursuing those given sort of current situation? or-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any way that we can actually, we're able to retain additional funds, we will.
Okay. Do you want to do the financial analysis of the teacher contract?
Yeah, I can go over it.
Those were all the budget sheets, right?
Yeah.
There were 4.
That's everything that I have, unless I missed something.
And next one.
No, I got an extra one.
Okay, so the next one is the collective bargaining financial impact analysis. So I won't go line item by line item, just because this is more for informational purposes. But this is, again, just to be clear, this is only on collective bargaining, which is only our teachers union. Okay, this does not pertain to support staff, administrative staff, professional employees. Okay, so the salaries, the step 1 bonus, we only have 1 person that was hired for that. Step 15 bonus, the longevity stipend, the 10-year plus service, sick day buyback, personal leave, the health insurance, I did correct that. This form did say 90%, it's actually 89%. We have two, 89% and 85%, depending on your hire date. Those who declined health insurance last year, who received a buyback if they had insurance elsewhere. Dental insurance is what we pay out. Life insurance policy, which we offer the collective bargaining, which is a policy of $25,000. Long-term disability. The retirement severance is a big one this year. We have a lot of tenured teachers put in for retirement, so that one jumped quite a bit. Professional days, and then the advanced courses.
How many are receiving the step 15 bonus?
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
How many are receiving the step 15 bonus?
If you look on the right-hand side where it says under other questions, I list all the people. So there's,
Oh, I thought that
the
just,
step 15, oh, I didn't put that one in.
no,
Okay,
thank you.
I can get the information, I don't know off the top.
Which one was that?
The third one down, the step 15 bonus, she asked how many people are receiving it. I thought we
How many
had that.
total people on the contract? Do you know offhand?
The total number of people in the collective bargaining? I do
Yeah,
not have
how many people does this pertain to?
So this is all paid out.
Correct, this is last year,
So do we have a total,
a total,
a grand total of all of this paid out?
no, you mean just add up the FY13 column? Is that what you're asking me to say total? These are the totals for each of the different articles of the collective bargaining agreement. So
Right,
the 5.3 is just the salaries for collective bargaining members only.
okay, so.
And I'll provide you, Ellen, with the number.
Step 15, that'd be good.
Yeah, I'll do step 15 and the number of participants that are
Yeah.
covered under there.
Yeah, that'd be good, the total, the total
collective bargaining agreement.
analysis, yeah.
On the other questions, is that where we're supposed to add the total amount to where it is on the FY 2012-13 cost? Transfer those numbers off to the right-hand side and add those numbers up? What I'm trying to get at, Christine, is this number here, what's the bottom line if we
You
pay it
just
out?
have, I could total it at the bottom for you.
Well, don't do it right now, I guess. Maybe you had it on your sheet.
No, because the intent of this was just the individual articles and what it cost.
And this is good for 2 years?
No, this is just the FY13 year, July to June school year.
But the contract is a 2-year or 3-year?
It's a 3-year.
So we can
And it
expect to
started-
be paying this out in the next 3 years? Even more?
It'll change every
Well,
year.
It's gonna change, I was
It's
gonna say, it's
changed.
gonna
Some of
be
the
more.
articles have changed.
Yeah,
The step 15, for example, incentive has changed. It's being now reduced by $500 for each year of the contract.
Is the total meaningful though? I mean, the total's around
The total-
7.2 million, but you're saying that would be the sum total of all these pieces of the teacher's contract?
Correct. Of which you've asked for. There could be some things that you might not have asked for. I've only took the template you provided and provided the information with.
The one that we got, it must have been a couple years ago, it says FY 11-12, I just happen to have it with me tonight. There was, under the sick leave, there was a sick leave line that was different than these other three. And it had a cost, and then it actually had a liability. It was quite high, kind of like down where you have retirement, severance, there's a liability. Is that not in here, or is that captured some other way?
It's not in here. Are you looking for the total liability if every teacher were to get paid out their sick time? Or
I guess that's what, yeah, it says total number of sick days on the books. So I think
If
that's,
every-
if everybody took all
and
the
it's
sick.
not-
Yeah, so it's sort of a, somewhat
it's not
abstract.
practical, but if everybody were to take their sick time on the books, it'd be roughly $1.4 million.
Yeah, it's a high number, okay.
What's the difference between the longevity stipend and the 10-year plus service?
The 10-year is, if you see the notes, it's $100 per $100 per year above 14 years of service. So for every
Correct.
year of service you have, you would receive $100 in addition to.
So,
And that one is
just because they have a job?
one of them's Newmarket. The 10-year plus is the Newmarket one. So.
oh,
for-
14-year service as a teacher?
Yeah,
Okay,
anywhere.
anyway, in any
Anywhere.
district,
Any-
okay, all right.
Correct,
okay.
and the 10 plus service years is only into Newmarket.
Do we know how many teachers are getting both?
No, I don't, I have that information, I just don't, I didn't provide it.
Okay.
Would you like the information?
Sure.
So they get $100 per year above 14 years of service.
In any district.
Hold on one second.
What does that mean, any district?
It doesn't
Any
mean they
place
don't,
they ever worked.
wherever they teached.
However many years
Oh,
experience
that
they have.
was, that was
Wherever they taught class.
going in the contract that everybody was stunned. Is that correct?
No, that's the step 15.
Step 15. Well, I hate to say this, folks, but you're lucky. You get a job, and then now we're paying you for having that job, in addition to your salary.
Can I go back to my sick leave line, because I think, given you can't assume that what the total liability would be, it's kind of an abstract number, but there was some people took sick leave, which would be different than the buyback or the bank or the
The
personal
sick
leave.
day buyback is probably what you're referring to?
No, it's sick leave. It was a separate line of sick leave. Sick leave buyback is different, isn't it? Like how many teachers took sick leave this fiscal year? What did that cost? That's not any of those other three.
Okay, so you wanna know how many teachers took a sick day?
Well, I'm just saying it was in this one we had before, and it does seem like, it's just like professional leave, it's sick leave, so it's calculated. It was like 29,000 that year.
Well, there was one in there that I saw before, and I removed it because it was not accurate, because the liability is a different, it was projected to be 333,000.
That's okay. If you
That was for, what they did for that, which was an error, is they took, what everybody had on the books for days, and they multiplied by $75, which is the sick day buyback rate, which is incorrect. If everybody were to take their day, it'd be based on their per diem rate, which is why you have 1.4 million.
But wasn't there a set number of people that took sick leave during the school year, and what did that accumulate?
That wasn't on here, but I'd be more than happy to
I
go
think we
on
should
here.
just, might
I
as well.
thought this was the buyback. So this is from teachers who accumulate sick days but don't use them. Their option is they could give them back to the school
They would
for a
sell them
cash
back
stipend.
at $75.
So if, like,
No, I don't understand that. No, I'm just saying.
That's
there's-
what the
but
People
there was
actually-
no
$34,000 was for.
usage of sick days by teachers.
No,
This
there
is-
were, but it's not in there. There were sick.
Previously,
I'm sure there
she
were
Oh,
said-
sick.
yeah, but I'm saying that's not part of what they're spending in the contract.
Correct.
They wouldn't track in a contract actual sick days the teachers took versus this that defines if you sell them back to me, I'll buy them for $75 a piece. So if you're asking, which teacher took how much sick leave during the year, that's a personnel record. That wouldn't be-
No, I'm not asking that at all. We have a line item that says personnel leave, on this one it says 35,000. So what was the sick leave cost for the days that sick leave was taken? It's the same, it's just another category of cost. It was in the previous, I'm just raising it because it was in the previous
I think Kristen
calculation.
said she took that out. Was that the one?
I took out the liability. There was
Oh,
one in there for the liability,
That's not what it
which,
But she said it wasn't a valid entry, that's why she took it out.
that's why I took it out, because it's really not feasible that everybody in the district is going to use all of their sick time in one period of time as well, so.
But where did you put it?
I just deleted it.
There's your answer. It's not there.
Because if they resign or they retire,
They don't get paid out sick days.
okay. But if they
It's only-
become sick days prior to, then you've got to pay us up. So the potential liability is there.
Yes, I see where you're getting at, which is what Ellen is asking.
It's not real.
It's not an article of the collective bargaining agreement. You just want to know what the total dollar value of what you paid out for sick days. Is that correct, Ellen?
Yeah, I think that would,
Okay.
if that seems to fit with the other,
But so we understand the mechanics, you're
this
saying
is based on
people
the
get somewhere between 7 to 14 sick days and 3 personal
contract.
days as an annual credit,
Yeah.
which they may
And
use
accumulate.
okay, they
And
may
it
use that
accumulates.
17 days and get no compensation. They can accumulate that over the years, so you get a push on personal days as well.
No, the personal days used to roll over into your sick time. Okay,
Okay,
the new contract does not allow that.
so it's use it or
Personal time.
lose it,
That's correct.
but you have the option to sell back a day at the
sick
end
days.
of the year?
Your sick days only.
Okay.
What do you have to use or lose?
Your personal days are now use it or lose it.
And those are 14?
No, 3.
Three personal days.
Yep.
And
But
those
you can't
personal
sell
days
it.
also
Hold on a second, sorry.
sick days too, or they're separate from sick days?
They're separate from sick days.
So,
Personal days, you have 3 personal days, and teachers have 14 sick days. Okay, and then they're allowed to, the sick days roll over, they can accumulate
and how long can they do that until they retire?
up to 125 days.
Okay.
But they can cash them in at the end of the fiscal year?
At the end of the fiscal year, they can,
They can cash in 7 out of the 14.
correct,
And then the other 7 stay in the books and accumulate?
Yes.
correct.
But they,
Depending on how many days, and depending on how many sick days they have on the books, they either get $75 per day or $100 per day.
Why the difference?
Because you have to reach a certain minimum to get that $100 a day.
A certain minimum of
I
what?
should have become a teacher.
Number of sick days,
Okay.
check for
it's not a
Cumulative
financial.
sick days would end up paying 100%
Take my word for it.
costs.
I'm sorry.
Well, from our
Used to
side,
be
it
that
looks,
if you accumulated sick days and let's say somebody had a heart attack and went to the hospital and they were in there for 3 months, that the accumulated sick days would be used at that time because they banked them.
Bingo.
And
Bingo.
that they wouldn't have to pay any of the, let's say, the bills for perhaps that 40 days worth. That would give them an extended period before they had to co-pay or do insurance. I don't know what the insurance carrier is, but usually that would end up extending the period where they would either be on unemployment insurance or they would get
Disability.
payment for
Short-term
disability.
a short-term or long-term disability would
Yeah, you
be.
have to use
It's
it.
kind of a
Unless for
short-term
even 50
disability
of those,
policy.
just because the corporation changes the policy.
So the first year of this new contract, we won't see this until a year from now.
Correct.
impact of the new
That's why,
contract.
yeah, in your email, I said I can't project what 14, 15, 16 years, because it's always after the fact, it's always what we've expended for that fiscal year, the prior years. Yes, you'll see the changes in the
So this sheet is
the
the new
step 15.
contract or the old contract?
This is the old contract, because the new contract is now in effect for July 1. So
Gotcha.
you'll see those changes next year.
Okay, thanks for doing that. I think it's helpful to
It is very
see
helpful.
that.
It doesn't really seem it, but it is.
I'm going back.
All right, we,
Okay.
I'll turn it over to Jim to do the.
you already talked about special ed. Jean will come at a future meeting if we want
I was
to talk about
gonna,
that.
the next meeting, if you just let me know,
Yeah, we'll see what our schedule is and so forth.
and then she'll be happy to attend that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
I'm sorry you didn't have supper.
I didn't either.
All right, now we're into our actual work, which is the new budget.
Yes, FY15 is upon us. I have, what you, I'm sure you all got copies of. It is very much a draft. The only thing is that to start it, I did have a conversation with Steve Fournier, and so we agreed on.
You're talking about
certain-
the schedule for the meetings? Is
Right,
that- Yeah.
Draft.
Oh, is that what you're
Okay.
talking about,
Yes,
the
I'm
schedule? I thought you were
Oh,
talking
schedule.
about
No, I wasn't talking about that.
this. Oh, okay. Nah.
And so we were in agreement about certain, dates that we share or that go by law, but the rest of this, I have to review with my administrative team, and then next Thursday night before the school board, make sure they're comfortable with it, and then once we put a stamp of approval on this, then I'll send you a final version, but this gives you some sense. Again, the goal is to provide you with the budget proposal, FY15 budget proposal, no later than Thanksgiving, which is later this year than usual, but anyway, the date that I put here is November 26th, to get that to you at the latest.
So, if I understand the process from last year, Monday, January 27th, which is the third date up from the bottom, is the last time the budget, the date before that effectively is the last time the budget committee
Excuse me.
would have to approve the warrant, the
Right.
posting of the warrant articles of the budget.
Yeah, and that's a date that Steve gave me, so we're both in agreement. And then that then leads to the deliberative February 8th, and then voting on March 11th.
Jim, can I make a suggestion? Given the fact that this is a draft, and we know it's a draft,
Yeah.
is there a possibility, because we're gonna get more of these drafts probably, put a date, so when you talk about draft, we know which one?
I could, but
it's gotta
I
go.
truly believe the next one you see will be
The final one? Okay.
Dr. Hayes, you talked about having a budget workshop for the school side.
I did. I still don't have a date for that, although Ellen and I have talked about your next scheduled meeting.
Yeah, we should back up. Yeah, let's back, can we hold that for just a second?
Sure,
Because that's
absolutely. It
slightly
just wasn't
separate.
on-
That's all right, no, it's just slightly
No, the
separate from
draft
the,
here.
from the budget.
I didn't consider that part
No,
of
but
the
it's
Yeah.
on the agenda. We're
None of
gonna-
it's gonna change.
Yeah, it's not part of the
It
budget
was on the
process. Okay, so is everybody clear on we'll be getting the budget sometime around Thanksgiving, and then we invite the school, you folks back to talk to us about the budget in
Right.
more detail. Any questions about that?
And then obviously, I'm sure the school board would say to you, any of our work sessions.
Right.
And I know in the past, some of you have come and sat in on them.
Right.
We should do that. It's
Yeah.
helpful.
We had a couple, are you gonna do that same, you always do that booklet? Are you
We're
gonna
going
do
to talk
it-
about that tomorrow, because we're kind of caught in between. Would we like to shift to Encode, the software that gave you those reports? We would like to, but we're still not certain. We're going to talk about in the meeting tomorrow, whether we really make a break and do that, or whether we do them in tandem, so that I have the booklet as well as Encode. It's just, and I don't mean to present you in two different versions. We would choose one or the other, but we really want to move to our new software, but I'm not sure we're ready to do that.
I just remember if you do the booklet, we had a couple suggestions last year, when we talked about it, of suggestions on how to improve the information in the booklet. It was
Yes.
something about the titles and various things, so we can, I think, have that in our notes. We could share that with you again if you decide to go the booklet route, because it might.
Okay,
just-
yeah.
No,
My
I don't-
recollection is that after it was all said and done, and I put together a final product for my staff.
Mhm.
I did make a
Okay, maybe it was in there,
change.
I don't know that we
Yeah,
saw that,
check
okay.
that out.
Anybody have questions about the budget? I had a question about the warrant articles, but anything about the budget, the operating budget? So, all right, it gets into a bigger process in terms of the timeline. We're gonna talk about that. Are we ready to talk about that now, or are we, the warrants are gonna be around the school, issues. So, do we wanna talk about the timeline in terms of, you're gonna have some forums and what the,
Okay, yeah, let
Yeah.
me shift to
it's
that.
kinda
Yes,
complicated.
let me give you the short.
Can I just
the
jump
short
in
version.
quickly?
Yes.
In that, when does the budget committee review the warrant articles? I'm not entirely clear from
It's
your.
down here.
I see when they're posted, I see the public hearings, last day for petition warrant articles. When are they to us?
I don't think we saw them until January, early January
Yeah,
last
it
year.
would be in January, because as a board, we typically don't get to them until the first part of December.
Well, we, in theory, shouldn't be deciding what our final decision is until we have the public hearings on both, right? We don't vote on what we approve until after the public gives us input, gives the school board input, et
Yeah, I'm
cetera.
not sure that's cast in stone, Russ. I think
That's a
the
school
budget
board
committee can
review.
decide to make changes
No,
before the
that's-
public hearing.
Oh, yeah,
Make
no,
matters.
I'm saying we
Right, I
can't
think we-
finalize.
Right, until after.
Till after.
Right.
So if these dates are right, and I'm assuming January 21st, it's saying is the last day to hold a public hearing. And January 14th is the last day for the town public hearing.
But if you look at December 5th, board review of draft warrant articles, that's when the school board, I'm assuming.
Correct.
So from there to going into January, not much time.
Right, and all I'm trying to, just to see if I'm understanding this correctly, if you look at Tuesday, January 14th, that you have scheduled as the school budget public hearing,
Yes.
that you would have to hold that, and then the budget committee would have to vote somewhere between January 14th and January 27th, which is their last day to post, what we would make as our final recommendations on the budget. whether we agree or disagree with the warrant articles.
Which I think we had a discussion on that last year, that timeline was too narrow.
It's very tight, yeah, it's a very tight timeline, yeah.
Right, and it's gonna be the same for the
Yes,
town,
it
though it
is.
looks like the
Yeah,
town may be on a week earlier type schedule.
Right.
All right.
I think it's always gonna be tight, we have a March meeting. It's
Yeah,
always
so
gonna
whatever
be-
discussions we have, all I'm saying is somewhere between January 14th and January 27th. That 2-week period, we have to come to closure.
Don't go to the kids, that makes sense.
I'll take a look whether,
Yeah. Are there
whether
any-
it's realistic for us to start
Yeah. Any,
looking at the other warrant articles earlier.
SAUs, I mean, any restrictions on your side from the state side
Yeah, I don't believe
prohibiting
there is.
you from starting early?
I don't believe there is.
Yeah, okay. That, if that can be moved, that's,
Yeah, I'll look at
I
that.
think helps.
Thank you, I guess somebody answered my question.
Thanks.
27.
The other,
Got
the
it
other
now.
comment I'll make though, just so we're all aware, this date of the 27th, January 27th, is the last date to post the warrant, blah, 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 blah. It is advisable for us to finish at least, I would say, 2 or 3 days. Christine, tell me if I'm wrong, in advance of that,
Oh, yeah.
because we need to provide the town and the school
And
the
you're right,
opportunity
that-
to generate that,
Just a
those
double sword,
numbers.
we need
So
the
it's-
warrant articles.
In order to do
I
that.
think
and
last
that's-
time we
I
had
can
a
get something
midnight
to you
meeting.
earlier.
So if we can push back with their recognition that we have to do the same, I guess
Right.
is all I'm
The only
hearing.
thing I would say is that you can't change the petition warrant article date.
Correct.
That's the only thing that you can't change,
Point.
so.
But I think recognition on each side that there is some work to do outside of these dates. We need a couple of days, they need a couple of
But
days.
even with
and
those
I think
warrant
we
articles, there's a
understand that.
deadline in which those have to be submitted also.
That's the January 14th date.
Okay.
Okay, so you can push everything up, but you still have to accept the petition warrant articles until that day. That's the last date for citizens to submit them.
Right, but if we need to listen to the public hearing and then meet to think about what we heard and make our final decisions, then there needs to be that week to 2-week period between when the public hearing is held and when you have to post the articles. That 2-week period from the last input we get, other than from the committees, is the public hearing, which in theory we have the responsibility to listen to the public.
Yes.
And then we have to bring to closure in that next week. So I just don't want to be jammed in a week.
Yeah.
There's a public hearing, we have to
That's,
meet, we
that's
have to
all I was
decide.
asking is just
Yeah.
where did that fall in? That was my recollection.
Yeah. That's a great point.
We will be jammed in a week.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
That's what happens.
Oh, that's okay. That's what you put in the
It'll be the
OT.
same next year too.
It's the same as you.
yeah.
Is every year the same?
Yeah, it's what
Say
happens.
December and
Or at
January.
least if at the board level, we can start a discussion of other warrant
Yeah.
articles earlier.
That would be
That's a
fabulous.
help, at least then you.
I would encourage that
Some of the lay of
behavior.
the land.
That's all I was asking.
So to back into that, do you want to sort of lay out what your sort of timeline is for?
Yeah,
The whole
tuition
school
agreement and all
bailiwick,
of those kinds
what-
of things. Well, let me go back a week and a half or so ago when the superintendent from Oyster River and myself made presentations in both of our districts. The one that we gave to both was the framework, and I emphasize that word, for a tuition agreement. It was not a negotiated agreement, let's say, that both sides settled on and bartered over. We discussed a lot of things, and we said, what should be the elements of a tuition agreement, and how might the costs play out? But we didn't get into great lengths of debating that. And as it turns out, if you're familiar with the presentation that I made to our board in terms of the cost analysis, it proves to be very expensive. I truly believe that the door is open to negotiate that number differently, and I've already had one conversation with the superintendent about that. I'm hopeful that that is really the case, and I don't know any more than that, but I hope to know soon. From our perspective, I'm floating some dates right now with the school board chairman, and then later with the others, to hold public hearings in September. And several, I don't have dates for those yet, but it'll be during that month. Oyster River, to this point, has said that they will make a decision in October as to which community it wishes to enter into a tuition agreement with. And they have 4 options. It's Newmarket, Barrington, Deerfield, and they're looking at a combined Deerfield-Barrington arrangement. So they would make a decision then. They are not the final decision makers. Their decision has to be supported by their voters, and that would be in March. Last spring, and even before that, I know I spoke about hopefully having a special school district meeting in Newmarket in November, but as it turns out, and I won't go through the details unless you really want to know them, that it makes no sense to have one. And so, so for us, October's a key time. Do we get an offer from Oyster River or not? And depending upon that outcome, then it informs what's the warrant that we would present to voters in March.
Does the offer come in, you won the beauty contest, now let's make the contract? Or is the offer a specific contract?
I expect the offer will be a specific contract. And so that's why I'm expecting we'll have conversations between now and then, but likewise they will with the other 3 options that are on the table.
Sounds like they're playing us.
The
Yes.
public hearings in September, will that include all the things you've been analyzing in terms of cost, fire and life safety, potential new school,
Yep.
all the scenarios that might
Yes.
play out?
Yes, and anything new that may come along in terms of the tuition agreement. But in terms of the fire and life safety, again, I told you a little bit, it's an estimate, but I think it's a pretty close number that I've got in there. And then the construction numbers came right out of the cost estimates in the Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank.
Okay.
Blue and then Russ.
With them coming back to us with an answer in October, are they looking to see about putting something on a ballot for their next voting
Yeah,
cycle?
they would be putting theirs, whatever.
When do they vote? March.
They vote in March.
They vote at the same time.
Not same date, but yeah, they vote in March.
Now, the other 2 donor communities have to also approve this too, right? The current one's Lee and
It's a
Madison.
cooperative, so all of the communities, I'm not sure how their voting scheme works, but all the communities have to support it.
Plus, Newmarket would have those.
And so agree.
Russ
then-
had, sorry, Russ had a comment and then.
Yeah, well, no, and I think Lou's bringing up at least a timeline. If you're saying we find out if we're still in the beauty contest in October, from Durham taking an action, not us taking action. Correct, Durham would have to
Yes,
say.
if they're gonna
"I'd like
make
to
us an
you
offer."
Being a partner.
Whoever they want to make the offer to, yeah, right now, they're saying they will make that offer in October.
And they know they would have to wait until March when we vote,
Right.
and March when
They vote.
the town hasn't voted. The school board's made the offer to our school board in October.
Right. And all the voters
The
have to have.
voters have to verify on both sides in March. If they both say, yes, let's get married,
We're there.
life's good. Okay.
We're there.
If one of them says no, regardless of what the 2 school boards said, then the deal's off. And so working back from October, which is when Durham School Board is gonna let us know. And we
All
let them know
towns.
too?
All towns.
The
Okay,
district.
they're gonna let all the towns know it.
They're
They're the ones who choose.
they're gonna examine what their options are and decide.
And that's what they're doing now.
Right, that's what they're doing now. I mean, just as they're having discussions with us, although I would say, they characterize ours as more comprehensive and thorough than what they're having with the other communities. But they are talking with the other communities.
I mean, we actually have assets that can help them, the ball fields and things like
No, I
that.
know that.
Just,
But my question is just from a timing point of view. I've seen articles in the paper. I've gotten people's reactions. I don't know if anybody else here has had their own reactions or other people calling and saying, what's going on with these numbers? Jim says this is crazy, too high, or whatever, quoted in the newspaper. I feel an obligation from the budget committee because we're responsible for, we're elected, not that we have a yes or no, but to understand the underpinnings of this. before the public meetings. I don't think the public meetings should end up being a free-for-all for 3 hours for people to ask questions. I'd like to have more information either in people's hands or for us to have a session between now and when September is, because I think we have a fiduciary obligation to be able to say, we at least on the budget committee have delved into this, okay, to the point where we understand the moving parts, and if people ask us, we can at least explain something, rather than saying, we know nothing, ask Jim.
I would really encourage you. I wrote 2 different documents this summer. I know Dana came by, for example, to pick up some hard copies today. One tries to fully explain the elements of this framework for a tuition agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't just give you the language in the agreement, it also gives you our discussion of what were the issues that we looked at and why did we settle on the language we had. Sometimes it's necessary to do an interpretation of the language in the agreement. So that really, I think, does a good job of explaining different facets of it. The second one is about the cost analysis that I was asked to bring back, which has, to me, all of the aspects, not just the tuition agreement, but construction and fire and life safety. And again, what I really tried to do is lay it out in a step-by-step explanation that shows how these calculations were made and how we get to the results.
Gotcha.
Okay,
And
so
I
they're really worth looking at and taking some time.
I agree, and I haven't had a chance to read them. We've only been.
Yeah, no, I realize that. That's fine.
And so I'm saying between now and the date of the public hearing that you're doing, can we end up, so I'm asking us to consider, having a session where we all agree we'll read it or not read it, but we'll sit here speaking with you and whoever you want to bring to say, we've read all this, let's make sure we understand it. Here are some questions or some issues.
A separate workshop.
Yeah, so that at least, I feel, as I said, I don't know if anybody else does, I feel an obligation as an elected official on the budget committee to understand the moving parts here. And
Can I ask a couple related questions regarding that? We did have a request from at least one citizen for some, an independent analysis, if you will, or a second analysis of the
Sure.
tuition agreement.
Right.
And I do believe that Steve Fournier, the town administrator, has
Yes.
offered or agreed to perhaps have Matt Angel do that. Is that your understanding?
That's true. In
That-
fact, I spoke with Matt today about it, and I know his office is going through a pretty hefty audit this week, so he said next week we can start.
So do you know, I'm just thinking again in terms of, it seems like it would be helpful to have that done before a gathering that really delves into the numbers again.
Right.
Do you know what his timeline might be to do that analysis?
No, I mean, he said start next week. I mean, how much time he has to dedicate it to, I couldn't tell you.
Right. So a follow-on then is, you mentioned public hearings. Are you thinking of a series and you'd cover different things at each one? Or I guess what I'm getting at is there's not a lot of time to have a session, and so is there a way for us to combine one of your ideas for a public hearing in this, so that everybody, not just the budget committee, but people can come and in-depth look at this tuition agreement? Is that what you're
I don't know,
asking
I'm
for?
bringing up,
Yeah, I heard a separate session over here.
Yeah, but if Matt Angel's
The
gonna
public's
do
always
this,
welcome.
I don't want to repeat things, but I also don't want to end up saying, well, let's trust Matt to go through this thing and come with chips. So if Matt wants to work with us knowing his schedule with yours and be able to say, let's not waste people's time, but at least let's read it, let's have a meeting a week and a half from now, maybe Matt would attend and we can all be better educated on what's going to happen in the next week or two.
I would say let these two work out that date lines scenario.
Well, we would need to pick a date tonight if people want to have another meeting before our next meeting, which would be later, probably after your public hearings. You don't have dates yet for your public
I
hearings.
certainly don't have them with me. Again, I think I sent four evenings. I think the first one was the 11th and then the 17th, and then a couple of dates in the 20s. I don't remember exactly.
Dates for what?
That I sent to the school board chair to say, what do you think of these dates? Does he have any preferences and so forth? And then once I heard back from her, I was going to get to the school board.
The magic date for Durham to make a decision is October.
He didn't, yeah, it's in October, but he didn't give me a date or anything. So I think they typically meet the Wednesday the first and third Wednesday.
Amy, then Blue, and then Dana.
As I read the letter from Mr. Wigod, it was more requesting that those with a financial expertise, and there are a number of people here, either as a board or individually, that do specialize in finances, in addition to Matt Angel, could potentially be of some use to you. It was felt that there was a lot of work here. I have gone through the presentation, and there's a lot of data there, but self-admittedly, you said, you know, you're not a financial guy. Many of us aren't. And
Well, let me
so,
correct that. I feel like I am a financial guy. What I really
okay,
said
you can turn into one.
was
No, what he said.
financing, bonding and all of that. No, I'm not, I don't have that expertise, but the rest of that stuff.
Okay, it
I'm
wasn't
very-
exactly what you said,
Yeah,
but that's okay,
I
we don't
understand.
need to get into that.
All right.
I think what I got from this gentleman was that he wanted to see those with a trained financial eye help to ensure that what was in here, you know, how did you arrive at the conclusions? Is there something that we can see there? And so I think the idea of Mr. Angel being involved certainly can only help. And my thought is, do we as a budget committee want to offer our services in any way that we can to help clarify this and get this out for the public, whether it's one member or the budget committee?
All I can tell you,
Is that something that you would be willing to accept the help of the budget committee to do?
I have no problem meeting with you at all. I
Okay.
know, the school board chair's response was that it might be a faster turnaround because Matt works during the day if we get the director of finance involved as opposed to bringing it to this.
And I'm not disagreeing with
group.
that either.
You know, it's a
I'm
matter
just
of
saying
efficiency.
that we are here charged. I
problem
think,
showing up
I
at a
think
meeting
if I'm
and
expanding
talking
on what
about
Russ said.
Yeah, the only,
fair enough.
I didn't know about Matt until tonight. The only thing I saw
Okay.
was that there would be no meetings with the budget committee. They would just got the public session. I thought I saw that from
So we're
one
here.
of the messages you sent in the calendars.
And I'm here, I'm
Okay.
ready, because the more people who
I mean, I
understand
read the
that-
response from Kelly that she would go to Matt, but I didn't see any mention of the
But
budget
wouldn't
committee,
your
and I didn't know
request
how
go
people
to the
felt
school
about that.
board, not to him? Your request to be part of that discussion as you as an individual, if that's what you want. That
No,
would
I'm
go to the school
asking,
board.
I'm on the budget committee right now.
Right,
and
but you're
I'm
asking to sit on a board meeting that he's gonna be in charge of with the school board.
No, I'm not.
No.
No, I'm
She's
not.
offering her assistance.
Yeah, I think we're
I'm
mixing
really
up
not.
this idea of having a
Okay.
discussion with the
Yeah.
board and so we just have a back and forth about what you've come up with the tuition agreement versus people, I'm not entirely sure how that would work.
Me either, that's what I'm.
And
I
yeah,
don't know.
looking at
Here's
the analysis.
here's my specific thought that I started the ball with, which is, let's all choose a date a week or two from now. Let's all try to read this, and as a budget committee, I think we owe it to the people who elected us to have a dialogue with you so we feel
Yeah, we're not
comfortable.
disputing that.
We know what's going on, we may raise some questions that give you food for thought, we may be total idiots, I have no idea. But I'd like to read it, and I'd like to engage with you guys in making sure we understand it, and we'll have some questions asked. After that,
And this session would be just on the tuition agreement.
I'm talking about
Or you wanna
whatever the
look at all
packages
the-
that's out there.
There's a lot, so I'm just.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
But I think a lot's gotta get voted on. This is not, I mean, all the pieces either fit together or they blow up together. This is not, I'll do the tuition agreement, but this part fails over here. You have to understand the implication of, is it a new high school, is it a new middle school, can you correct the high school, can you do this program? All of this is intertwined. Now, I don't wanna sit here and end up saying, let's take 4 independent decisions on this.
Yes,
Blue is next, Blue, we missed out on you, go ahead.
I just have two things. One, I sat through the entire meeting of this, and it's 54 pages. And basically from Superintendent Jim Morris and Dr. Hayes, this is a working document. I don't want to waste Matt Angel's time at all looking through this when all the numbers are going to change. To me, it's kind of a waste of his time, especially when he just said that he's going to be going through a severe audit. I understand we have an obligation to look through it, but I would rather look through something that's a little bit more written in stone, because these numbers are going to change a lot, especially when we just received 10 new students that are special ed. So, and that's one of the biggest costs that the district has, is special education. So for him to go through all these numbers and look at it and go, gee, where'd you come up with that number? Well, Dr. Hayes is going to be in a meeting next week and it could change. So it's kind of a work in progress, so I don't, we're kind of putting the cart before the horse.
I don't think.
Number
that's
two,
right.
my question is logistics. Is this going to be a separate warrant article, or is this going to be part of an actual, the first time we tuition out? If we do, if everything, all the chips fall in, if
Yeah,
the Blinko chips fall in the right
whatever.
slot,
That
everything
would
goes
be-
through, would it be a separate warrant article that the town is voting on
Yes.
as a budgetary item, or is it
Yes.
going to be in the?
Separate.
Separate warrant.
Thank you.
I think it was Dana and then Russ.
Yeah, my question is that, and I had this conversation with Dr. Hayes today, and I think Christine was there. I hear no discussion from our own school board finance director who we hired to participate in any of this, and I asked her if she had, and she said no. So, not that she won't work with Matt, but it's imperative, someone you're paying a salary who has the background, and I'm not questioning Matt Angel. He's done a very good job in the town. But what's his background in school government financing? Just because he is our finance director, he may be municipal finance versus, like Christine, would you be able to come over to the municipal side and do all of that? So I think they should be working together in tandem, and I haven't heard that yet. It's almost like that portion is being excluded. And yet, this board wants to be part of that discussion, which I have no problem, I think we should.
Absolutely.
Absolutely,
I'm gonna
absolutely.
jump in, this board, as I understood the letter, was asked to be part of it.
Yeah,
Okay, that's a
And-
little
and-
different than we
Right.
want to, I mean, you know, I
It was
think
really,
that's
it
what
was
trying
really
to
options.
ask me.
It was
You could do
options.
this, you could do this, you could do this, and it's
Yeah,
responses.
I thought it was looking for another analysis of the numbers.
Right.
Russ?
Yeah, just to comment on Blue, at least my view is two pieces. The numbers are absolutely changed based on who's in what position and what contract, et cetera. But the fundamental analytics, okay, and the rationale supporting them should, okay? This is the healthiest time to review, this is how the pieces fit together, these are the general formulas, this is how this relates to that, oh, did you think of this, or how to maneuver that? That's putting down all the rationales that you then turn into numbers once you end up having the connections. I think what's happened so far is we've had two school boards, and with limited participation, sit down and put together what they think are the moving pieces. And now what we're asking is, you know, Christine or Matt or the budget committee to understand what the variables are, have a chance to comment on them, understand them, and then the putting together the numbers of, at the last minute, are there 40 of these and 80 of these and 20 of those? I don't have any problem. I can't add or subtract any better or worse than anybody else can.
So just we're sort of getting the point here in terms of, is there consensus that we host what I would consider hosting a forum in a couple weeks for discussion of these four elements? I assume it's the tuition agreement, fire and life safety, new junior, senior high, and middle school. That would be the discussion items based on what you, and any other analysis that has been done, say, by the town. And that people are free to bring forward their own analysis. I mean, we do not have a budget, so we cannot hire someone, but I think if people want to talk to Matt or talk to you and.
That's why I wrote it the way I did.
And-
Anybody who has an interest in trying to analyze it and then reacting and asking questions.
And
I
bring
think
forth
that's a good
the
thing.
questions at this forum. Does that sound reasonable to everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
I don't know that
I
I
would
would even
hope we
do a
can keep it
forum.
on a high level, as Russ
yeah,
suggested.
me too.
Yeah.
More an informative, not a high level. Is that what you're saying?
I don't want to dig in minute detail,
I don't either.
because
That's why we hire them.
the questions to me are more large scale. Have we considered the appropriate, do we have all the appropriate ingredients in the mix? Because there's a lot of moving parts.
Or to paraphrase Russ's comment, to validate the concepts and how we get from point A to point B.
I think the assumptions is what, are the assumptions, where'd you get the assumptions and what are they based on, and are those movable parts? Sorry, Dave.
Well, no, I think really what it comes down to is it's risk analysis. We've got lots of different things on the table, and I think if we're gonna hold public forums, I think the point of all this was we need to understand this
Right.
before it goes to the public. So I don't know if it's a public forum, for everybody to talk, but for us to sit here and go, okay, let's read these documents. What are our questions that we have? Because then when the public has their public forum, we're going to need to have some answers for that as well. So I think that's more of what
Can we do
it
that in
is.
conjunction with Christine and Dr. Hayes and potentially Maddie? I mean, the more,
Yeah.
the more
That sounds
trained
pretty healthy.
financial eyes, I
Yeah.
think is where this,
I mean, I
where the
dissected these
taxpayers
to death
decided
over
to
the
seem to
last,
be going.
week and a half since your meeting, because I'm a math guy too, so, you know, I
Right.
dissected them to death and just, really looked at it and,
I think, Dave, your analysis is hit it right on the head.
because regardless, there's something, whether it's A, B, C, D, E, or F, some of them are contingent on choice A and choice B, and so what
Right.
happens if A doesn't go through and B and
I forget
everything?
whether it was Blue or Dana who mentioned our ball fields may have value. So, part of this is, yeah, I understand we may be tuitioning here, but what value do we have that either creates revenue for us or offsets the cost or things? Just making sure all the moving pieces.
So even with the building we have here, a mini, it's been discussed before, a mini campus where we would, back and forth, ball fields here, some education there.
Okay,
But-
sorry, I'm gonna, sorry.
I'd like to move that we set a date.
Yeah, how about Monday, September 9th?
That's next week.
You know if you,
That's not much time for that.
2 weeks.
well, the forums are in September, the public hearings and meetings are in September, so we want to do something before that. The
At
next,
the moment, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but that sounds.
That sounds good
Yeah.
to me.
next
I mean, I
Monday is
know it's
Labor
on
Day.
my calendar. That sounds cool.
Can I ask, so our regularly scheduled budget committee meeting will be Monday, the 23rd? Is that correct?
That's the fourth Monday.
Well,
That's
we'll
the
talk
fourth
about
Monday.
that, but that's the target. I think.
Well, if we need one, yeah. This one seems to be whether it replaces, is that your question? I don't know.
No, my question is, we stated previously that we were gonna have monthly meetings, and that we were gonna do the fourth Monday of every month.
Right,
And I just wanna confirm,
so that shouldn't
that's the
change.
23rd.
Right, this, the 9th is an extra meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
24th or 23rd?
Yeah, or if we don't
You
have
know if
anything else to
you
discuss.
are available,
then we'll
because
make
if
it
you're
a
not available, we
replacement.
can't do it that night.
I am.
I'll make myself available.
Okay. So we want to invite Matt Angel?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
And hopefully you'll be getting together with him before then.
I hope we will be done before that,
Okay.
to be honest with you. I'm not sure. So,
Will you be meeting with Oyster River? Will you be meeting with Oyster River before that again?
I don't know. I have no tentative dates set.
Okay, 7 PM here. Can you, can we do the power, project,
Oh, I can do
on the
that.
wall?
Yeah, I really encourage you to get copies if you
Right.
haven't already and take a look at the analysis in there.
Took
There's
20
a
minutes to
lot-
get them downloaded from the web.
There's a lot there.
That's why I went to the meeting, because I didn't want to
Yep.
use my printer.
It definitely used up a
Okay.
lot of ink. If I may, I think the presentation that was done here on that Thursday night was terrific, and it's available online for us and the
You can
public.
watch the.
So
we can-
that's a
we
great
can phone up.
starting point, yeah,
Sure.
rather than to redo
What,
it.
what do we look for? This is on videotape or? On the
Says
web?
channel.
Regular school board meeting from the 15th of August.
Dr. Hayes, are you gonna be able to get the documentation out to us prior to the meeting?
It's all on
It's
the
already
website.
It's already done.
No,
There is no,
what he's,
It's this.
okay, so it's
There is
just
no-
this,
It's what you
Yes.
picked up today,
okay.
and I didn't give you copies of the PowerPoints that I gave. Those are the two
That's what,
primary.
4 things in Ellen's thing that Kelly or you sent to her, 4 presentations.
Yes.
The night I presented, but like, for example, when people come now, I hand out, not the PowerPoint, but I hand out
to analysis, yeah.
So we're gonna be going over this, not the PowerPoint.
Well, I don't know,
You can look at the overall 4.
I don't expect you're asking me to come and do the same explanation I gave to the school board. Am I right?
If you pull up these presentations, I mean, having been there through it, if you pull up these presentations and watch the video, I think a lot of the questions, at least what's being talked about, answer it. There's still more in there that you have to deep dive, because he didn't go into
However,
specifics on
I'm
every single
still in the
page.
dark ages, my speakers don't work on my computer, so I wouldn't be able to hear anything.
So I want to make sure we have a process for that,
Yeah.
for that process for that night. So what do we want our presenters to present, or do we just want to ask them questions? We want Dr. Hayes and Matt and Christine to present something on this board, or make slides of these and that we refer to them, or what do we want them to do? Because we only have 2 weeks, they have a lot to do, we have a lot to read.
What's the easiest?
Well, I think the slides are already here.
But I know we've heard from the public when they want, it's, maybe it's not a public forum, but it is a public forum. That's the whole point, is for the public to hear us as well.
Sure.
And if they can't see what we're talking about, it's not going to be very clear to them. And
I
I
don't have
think it
any
would be,
problem putting that up there, it's just a matter of
What do we want
is
to put
the
up there?
nature of the discussion?
Right.
Am I doing that presentation all over again? I hope not. I hope people have enough familiarity with it that we, somehow in a structured way, get to the questions or issues that
Yeah, I would, I can't speak for, I would sort of say we should be reasonably educated by having read it and thought about the issues. And if you need to zip through a
Slide by
set of
slide.
slides saying, here's the main point, anybody have any questions or thoughts or issues with what they read, let's get them down at that point. It's not going over everything and explaining it.
I thought the discussion was gonna be on this.
It
So
is,
why are
but
we
if we
asking-
do the same presentation all over again, which took well over an hour,
Yes.
we'll get to the end, and then we'll have time for questions, and then it'll be 11 o'clock at night, and
Right.
we'll only just be digging into it.
yeah, we want to,
So if you get-
this is a follow-on to that. That's what we're trying to say.
So
And so
just
what
read
is
it
the
read
follow-on?
it or look at the
Question
board,
and answers.
watch the board meeting from the 15th of August, something that'll help familiarize you.
Have read Moby Dick before the class discussion.
Exactly.
Right.
Do your homework before the, not the cliff notes.
Okay, so no presentation, we're going to all come with questions.
But I'll be able to have,
Okay.
slides.
But-
And then go from slide to slide. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And is it easier for you to burn a few trees or for each of us individually to burn many trees locally?
If you need, I can make copies, it really doesn't take time. The facts would be if you, I think I've got 2 more up in my office.
And it's 4 docs, I remember sort of seeing.
Well, I haven't been handing
Yeah.
out the PowerPoint.
It's 2.
They're like
It's really 2.
daily-
It's really two, yeah, the
pretty
two that I picked
detailed.
up, yeah.
The 2,
And they're really
full
in
documents.
depth. There's a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, I have all 4, but
You wanna come upstairs, maybe
I-
I'm happy to make
I will
copies
come
for
by and
you.
pick up the PowerPoint, because I don't have to speak to
Sure, I
the.
clicked with that one.
Yeah.
You go to the library.
Now I can go there.
Okay,
There's no
Board
problem.
office is David's library.
okay, I'll confirm once I hear no from Matt. Now,
Last
if
time
Matt's
I was
not
at the library,
available,
I got
but
poison ivy.
they are, do we want to go ahead? If Matt
Let's
can't
go
come?
ahead.
You're still going to go ahead?
Time
Okay.
is-
Yep, okay, thank you
Yep.
very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes.
thank you.
All right, so we're ready to move along. So I just put budget law workshop recap, thinking that we didn't have a lot of the meetings, right? So we don't really have to do that unless people have any thoughts about
I
the
think we
workshop.
kind of did that a little.
Yeah, I thought it went really well, and it was great
Yeah.
attendance. Thank everybody
Very
for coming.
It was extremely
I thought it was really good. I'm really glad we had them come to Newmarket.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed that we didn't have a lot of outsiders there. We had
Where was that?
we had a budget workshop.
There weren't any
Oh,
non-Newmarket.
yeah.
A lot of Newmarket, different people though.
Yeah.
Employees,
Yeah.
residents,
Town council
boards,
members were there,
councils.
yeah.
So
No, I
good.
thought it was, and she did an excellent job.
Yeah.
Even though I tried to reach her today.
So the fall schedule, we now have 2 meetings for September. Probably after we have our meeting in 2 weeks, we'll maybe have a sense of what we want to do at the September meeting, but we don't really have anything to do until we get those budgets. That's really the start of our work, right? Go ahead, Drew.
That's absolutely factual. However, I would suggest that if we look at the schedule that the draft schedule that the school district provided us with today, they're meeting on October 17th with a budget presentation to the school board, and then the 24th, the 31st, the 14th, and then the 21st of November, the school board will be reviewing it. I strongly suggest that members either watch or attend those sessions because it makes it a whole lot easier to understand. All the explanations are provided there, or many of the explanations are provided there. So we may not have specific meetings, but
No.
again, it's homework. It's good for us to do that homework.
No, I was suggesting that, I don't know what's gonna be on our agenda for September and October because we don't have a lot of work to do until we get the
Mhm.
budgets. But we always seem to have things to do, so we'll keep the meetings for now and decide.
I have no problem with September 9th saying call off the September 23rd if we all agree to it.
Second.
So,
Well, we want to have the September 9th first.
so keep,
It's not a motion.
So keep it, yeah, but then
keep
we'll
it open for right now?
decide.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And, yeah, in October, we might be able to talk about CIP. I don't know when your timeline is for getting it done. I know I have it here somewhere. Which moves us on to CIP.
Mm-hmm.
Under other business, we need to appoint an alternate, if anybody would like to be an alternate, and I sent out,
Is Judy our
I am the
alternate?
No, I am the
No.
representative.
she's the
The official
representative.
rep, and there's usually a backup. I have served on it in the past. The board is willing, I would volunteer to be the sub. I've talked to Judy about it.
Okay.
The alternate would replace any member who was not present at the time.
It's like a.
But you attend all the, you
It's
attend
not
all
an
the meetings.
alternate
Yeah.
to the budget committee, it's an alternate
To the CIP.
to the CIP. So you could, they have one alternate or several?
I
No,
think
we're,
there's two. I think
we're the
there's
budget
one
committee
might-
alternate. We're,
It's the budget committee alternate.
It's the budget committee alternate.
In this case, but he was asking other alternates.
Yes, planning board has an alternate.
Okay, so this alternate is not for replacing everybody, it's
No.
just
yeah.
replacing.
And I think if you other people were maybe interested, but the timing, that's why I sent the times out, because it's pretty rigorous in terms of afternoon. But Dana's, anybody else interest or?
Meetings are at 4:00.
If you two have one, tell me, check
Okay.
it out.
Let's make a motion, somebody want to make a motion to appoint
That's why I'm
Dana?
here.
I'd like to
Just
make
give
a
me a hard
motion
time.
to appoint Dana Glennon as alternate to the CIP committee.
Second? Michael, thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor? Discussion?
Question.
Sorry, discussion?
I sent you an email saying that I cannot do it. But I did read their rules of procedure. I just want to make sure that we're following the proper procedure because of issues we had on our own committee. It says the CIP shall consist of 5 members, 2 alternates. The planning board and budget committee shall recommend 2 members to the town council for appointment. By us appointing him doesn't make him the alternate. Doesn't the town council
That's the
have?
regular members,
That's a regular.
It just,
of which
well,
Judy already went through that.
right, but it says under membership, the budget committee shall recommend 2 members to the town council for appointment by town council at its regular April business meeting. It doesn't say anything about alternates. I'm just making sure I don't mind, I don't care.
What are you reading from?
It's on the front page. It was part of the packet that,
What, you read something?
I did, yes, that the planning board
That
sent.
is-
You can, I just want to make sure we're following proper procedure, that's
That
it.
that is
It doesn't
correct.
say alternates, but I just want to make sure we're okay if we do that. Do we still need to ask the town council to approve Dana?
I run that by Steve.
It doesn't say it, but I just want to make sure we're doing it right.
Well, this was a request from Diane Hardy directly to us to appoint an alternate. So I would reply back to her and say, this is who we've nominated or appointed, and it's up to them to figure out if they.
I'm just following what their
Or
own
ask
procedures say.
Steve, you know, at this point, if technically, he raises a good point.
It just doesn't say,
Well, that's what I'm
We
saying.
found in
Rather
the
rather than
past-
debate it.
he's
let's-
stepping up to the plate, thank you very
Yeah.
much, we appreciate it,
Let's
but I
send it
just want to
over
make
to
sure.
Diane and let her make that.
We already had
This will go
appointments
back to
on this
Diane.
committee
She
that
requested.
were,
We found in the past that we have rules, not everybody's
Yeah,
read them.
you're right.
before they make
Correct.
decisions,
You're right.
so-
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all in favor of appointing
I'm
Dana
the
as
guy
the
who
alternate,
asked for
say aye.
direction.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, all in favor. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Judy, too.
Thank you, Dana.
It'll be a little bit of work. Any other business? I'll just suggest one thing. I attended, and I think others in the past have attended the Charter Commission's meeting, as you know, twice a month, and it's their first meeting of the month. They usually ask for public input, and they're craving information and ideas. So they asked me, I didn't go there to talk about budget per se, but they asked me about budget, and I spoke as a citizen, but they're very interested in, so if you have ideas about the budget committee, because that was created by the charter, and they're looking for ideas.
I did see that on one of the meetings that they have talked about getting rid of the budget committee. Just so
Yeah,
everybody knows, or shortening it, or lessening the members.
Yeah, I think they're
of
looking for
thereof.
all ideas for
Absolutely,
the
yep.
budget committee and other parts of the charter, so I think it's great. I think it's a really good
We have some
opportunity.
good discussions.
Yeah.
Then life is good.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Amy, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.